So it begins again. Welcome back to the CreepGeeks Podcast. This is Season 7, Episode 279.
Asheville UFO drone, Black Panther, ghost plant, and anchovy syrup.
Yeah. So here we are again. Welcome back to the CreepGeeks Podcast. If this is your very first time tuning in, we're glad you're here. And if you listen all the time, we missed you.
Yeah.
It's been a minute. So anyway, this particular podcast contains me, Greg.
And me, Omi.
And we talk about all sorts of stuff we find to be weird, interesting, and typically paranormally based on the internet. We don't say the C word. And you should guess what the C word is. And if you'd like to guess and leave a comment somewhere, you can certainly do that. We have multiple ways for you to contact us. We have a toll-free telephone number if you're old.
That phone number is going to be 575-208-4025.
Yeah. And we also have Facebooks and Instagrams and YouTubes, all that sort of thing. And you can find that, you can basically just do CreepGeeks for a search method. You know.
When you said this podcast
it's all lowercase, no caps, right?
Yeah, when you said this podcast contains... I thought you were, instead of saying me, Greg, I thought you were going to say anchovy syrup.
I thought about that, but you know what? Yeah. Because last time I said this podcast contains bioengineered food ingredients.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's not true. Anyway, before we roll into the podcast, got a couple different things to talk about a little bit. And, so this particular podcast is a little bit different because we've had some contributions kind of come rolling in from our patrons.
Yeah.
Yeah. And in the process of figuring out what was going on, right? Like, what was it? What are they talking about? That sort of thing. I realized that one of our buddies, Bobby, he sent us an email in May that went straight to the junk folder. I didn't even see it, right? And, I was like, oh, no. Yeah. So Bobby has wrote a book, and we have sent him a response to his junked email that I got. Maybe he'll be listening and he can respond back.
Yeah.
Because sometimes playing email tag anyway. And, the whole past life regression thing is still interesting. And
we'll post a link to the book as soon as
as soon as we figure out what's going on. I did send him an email. I was like, well, why are you in my junk folder? It happens. Not the best with this internet thing. But contributions are pretty cool because I thought this was pretty interesting. And one of them ties back to another contribution we had from a patron a while ago.
Yeah.
So if you want to do patrons and Patreon and join and all that sort of thing, you can certainly do that. We have a link in our show notes, and everything we talk about in our show is available in our show notes.
Yeah.
So with the links, you can look and do your own research if you want. It's just purely up to you. All right. So, and we're going to call this like local news, because in local news, one of our patrons who lives locally to us, and by local, I mean within 100-mile radius.
Yeah.
Basically reached out and said, hey, man, did you guys hear about the UFO? Amongst other things. He did several things, but we're going to talk about the UFO first. And so a local UFO sighting came from John J. And this is basically, what?
Oh, I was reading.
You okay? You make a weird face when you're reading.
It's fine. Anyways. That's the strain of needing an eye exam, so, okay.
And you keep putting it off, and then, you're blaming me.
Editing videos.
Okay, so anyway, nobody cares about that, right? So, evidently in Asheville, somebody had reported that they'd seen a drone or a UFO drone. I think it's funny that it's gone from being, I seen a UFO to a drone.
Yeah.
Right, and so according to healingasheville.com, which is the only place I could find it readily and quickly, because to be honest, I was going to take the picture because we'd seen it before because the picture got sent to us on Instagram.
And then somebody, not John, somebody else sent it to me in Facebook Messenger in an Asheville group. And when I tried to click on it,
it wasn't there.
It was a closed group.
Yeah.
And
it was okay. It was weird.
And it keeps going through like all these closed groups. It's circling around, and I'm not in all these weird. I'm in a lot of weird groups.
Yes, you are.
But I'm not in all the weird
groups.
North Carolina groups.
Not saying that there's anything wrong with that.
No, some of them are actually called the Weird Asheville people, and I was like, all right, join.
Yeah. Way to lump yourself in with quality.
Yeah.
So on Saturday, May 27th, it's probably June where you're listening if you're in Europe. But anyway, 2 men observed a slow-moving UFO transversing the sky just outside the Publix on Hendersonville Road.
Okay.
Yeah. No noises were reported by witnesses, and at the same time, communities near the Blue Ridge Parkway basically also reported a drone over on Saturday. So to date, this is the most recent Asheville sighting, and both witnesses are credible. We're sober, and they evidently work in the technology field.
Okay.
And so the picture looks like, you know, what we've been seeing on TV. I mean, it looks kind of like a orbler shaped
floating black football.
Yeah.
Or like some 90s era interpretation of a UFO.
Yeah. And so slow-moving UFOs or UAPs I've seen during the day and are more rare than nighttime sightings, and the flight path of the object follows the same military flight path that intersects the Blue Ridge Parkway.
Yeah.
The object was going northward, traveling at around 1,000 feet and going from basically north from Hendersonville to Asheville. According to witnesses, the object was dark gray/charcoal from their vantage point. And at this time, the direction of the object seen near Pisgah has not been confirmed.
Yeah.
So the picture we look at, I mean, it looks like one of those, you know, sort of ovoid shape, fast mover UAP kind of Tic Tac that was, you know, it kind of started this whole UFO flap.
Yeah.
In the 2020s here, right? And when I looked at it, I'm like, that's kind of weird. And I was reminded that, you know, we had another patron send us a picture of something they had seen while they were doing some photography and video real quick, you know, as it went whizzing by. And I'm like, man, if this object was going pretty fast, it would look the same to me.
Yeah.
So I went back into the messages and stuff on Patreon and took a look. And I didn't realize that there had been an update that was made based off of what he sent us. This was a while ago. This was in January, right?
Yeah.
Let me see if I can find the message, because I had it, but then I had to go all the way back to January. Let me see if I can find it right quick. I guess I have to go and look by the patrons to see it. So aggravating with this.
So one of the things that stuck out for me about this photo was, depending on where I found it on social media, I feel like the photos we're looking at now have been darkened, because the overall shape I was seeing on some of the Facebook posts and color and everything else, it honestly reminded me of that radar balloon that we took a picture of in Big Bend in Texas.
Kind of.
You know, just, well, the shape especially. So.
Well, that radar balloon to me looked like a blimp.
Yeah. And the posts that I saw on Facebook, because these posts that we're looking at now, maybe it's the background they're on or something. These posts to me seem like they've been darkened and that the contrast has been turned up a little bit. So.
I mean, who knows?
Yeah.
You know, it could be that one half of it's dark and the other half is light.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. And see, that's the thing. Are these from aliens? I don't think so. You know, and I've thought that for a long time. Most of what we actually see is military hardware. Whether it's been reverse engineered from something, or they've had 50 years to work on drone technology to the point where, you know, you don't need a modern day propulsion that we use. You can use a futuristic style propulsion. I can't even say it. Propulsion.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, who knows?
But if this was a large enough drone.
Anyway.
Yeah.
Speaking of drone, right? When talking about the footage and the message that was sent by our Patreon member, right? Because I wanted to get back to this real quick. Evidently, they had discussed it with some pilot friends, right? Some military pilots. And what they told him was, you know, even though they wouldn't really venture a guess as to what it was, the consensus was that, here's what they told him, it was likely an airliner at roughly 20,000 feet getting distorted by distance and atmospheric conditions on that particular approach. and it would still be moving pretty fast. And I'm like, that doesn't track for me.
Okay.
It doesn't, because, I mean, we've seen airliners flying at 40,000 feet going really fast. And yes, they move quickly, but they don't move as quickly as that thing did. I mean, I was in the military, used to hunt and track things using electronic means. And it's like, that doesn't make sense. Yeah. It's like, I could get why they would say that, but that's not how things operate.
So,
and I believe that our contributor there, I'm not going to say his full name, but I believe that's Mark, thinks the same way. He's like, I don't think so.
Yeah, because, all right, the only way I might kind of slightly side with some of those people is if we also lend or, weigh in the whole technology used with the lens to capture the images and the speed at which they were captured at that might cause some sort of distortion in the way that the image presents itself. Because, we all know with, not necessarily trick photography, but things can be compressed. So maybe it compressed it a little bit, the appearance of it in the image. But even then, I would expect it to uncompress.
Well, I mean, it depends. It depends if you're using phase detection for autofocus, if it has that being built in or something else. But for what we've seen from Mark, and his footage where that thing went whizzing by, he is rock solid. This guy is using tens of thousands of dollars worth of equipment.
Exactly.
And it's not like he was zoomed all the way in and tapped the lens, because when you zoom in using, the more you're zoomed in, the easier it is to lose track of what you're looking at. Tiny tap gets, but no, that's not the case at all. And this thing in Asheville, when I first seen it, I thought they were pictures from the ones that were shown in from the same sort of object that was shown from Brazil.
Yeah.
What I think is going on here is these are drones, and I think we're actually seeing more drones, and they can do these fantastical flight patterns and stuff because they're not using traditional or even our modern propulsion. They don't need to. It's almost like they're being repelled by magnets as they fly along. You ever put two magnets together? If you have the positive to positive and you push them, they just kind of push away real quick, and it's real smooth and fluid, like it's being done by some invisible force.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
something like that. It doesn't act like it's flying.
And here's going to be a general everyday person / great unwashed question. Whether this is top secret or just standard military testing or possibly private company, would a flight path have to have been registered for this?
I mean, I understand your question.
Yes.
And don't take this the wrong way. All right. They can do whatever they want.
Okay.
If you're trying to be stealthy and covert, are you going to register a flight plan? So if you're a Chinese weather balloon, are you going to register a flight plan?
But let's just say that these are private contract development.
If they're operating under the umbrella of the government to do a government function, they're going to adhere by the rules of engagement and everything else, and all the other rules have been put in place, which might mean no beacon lights, no warning lights, no navigation lights, no electronic emissions of any kind, no flight paths, none of that stuff. You do your mission.
So even for a safety test run?
You don't know if it's a safety test run. Okay. And if it is for a safety test run and you're testing it as in testing new technology, you're not going to do that either. Because you can get on the internet and look up flight plans right now of whatever's flying around out there. So why would you broadcast or maybe put that out there that, hey, this particular object that we want to keep secret is broadcasting the world as flight plan? And I guess...
Well, and for me, though, that just adds to the fact that I don't know just by this one link, granted, there's probably multiple links at this point and multiple sources. There's not enough information for me to double check that.
No, there never is. But I'm just saying that if you're going to do government stuff and you want to keep it secret, you don't advertise ever, regardless of the situation.
I think we're misinformationing ourselves as a community when you don't provide enough detail.
Well, that's the problem you have when you have user-submitted information.
Okay.
I mean, if you take a picture and you put it up on the internet and you don't know, you should be including location, date, time, all that sort of stuff, and you just submit it. You're like, well, I seen something crazy. I'm going to throw it up on TikTok or whatever.
Yeah.
it does a great disservice. And it does even more of a disservice when somebody sees that, is interested in that, and wants more information because they're really interested in researching it. And then they, in turn, try to put it up there and put it out and give it to people to look at, too, because they're in the same boat. You know what I mean? So you got to take what you got and use it. So I appreciate that being submitted to us to take a look at. And it does look an awful lot like what was submitted to us from before.
Yeah.
And I do think these are government craft. I think it's, I mean, what did we talk about? Last time a Predator drone is like 30 years old or something like that. Yeah. And we think that's like the latest and greatest drone, not even close. And some guys from college can fly a pizza box sized drone using plasma that doesn't make any noise and can hold 17 pounds. What's to keep the government from maybe taking that technology and making it even better?
Yeah.
So I think it's only a matter of time before it pops up, like triangle craft, where people are like, man, we see these triangle craft. And it's like, that's going to become evident here pretty soon in the next year or two, that we have had triangle craft flying around for a long time. It's just like the stealth bomber and everything else. The stealth bomber was pretty old when it came popping out.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, well, we've had this for years. And people are like, well, I don't know about drones. And here's the one thing that we have to look at too. The buzzwords and the keyword that has been scaring people and also making people very interested has been AI. Right?
Yeah.
And the government has AI, of course, and everybody else has AI. Who's to say that these drones are not equipped with AI, and the AI can do its own thing? It knows its mission parameters and what it needs to do and flies around doing its own thing. Because the government, I think, is that dumb to put an AI in place and are shocked when it doesn't get the results that it was looking for. You know, because the government is not known for picking the finest, highest, best quality anything. They have a budget, and they want the best they can get on that budget.
Yeah.
You know, it goes to the best equipped, lowest bidder is really what it boils down to. So I don't know, I thought it was pretty interesting. So we had some submissions that kind of turned into something. And I do think it's funny that somebody in that article was like, and it didn't seem, they're trying to get some corroboration from Pisgah or Blue Ridge Parkway in Pisgah. And, you know, hey, there's an underground military base out through there. I mean, who knows where this is coming from?
Yeah.
So I thought it was a pretty interesting submission, and we do appreciate it. You also had some more submission action from Mr. John.
Cool.
You know what it was?
Well, no.
See, you're obviously reading something trying to argue my point. You're
no,
like,
I'm
going to blast him with my intellectual.
No, I'm actually trying to find some of the original posts, and instead I'm finding trash, or to go along with what you were saying, some AI-generated things that literally say, that looks like what I saw over Hendersonville last year. And I'm like, so it's like...
Okay, well, we thought we'd seen something last year, too.
Yeah. So it's like,
Yeah, it's a thing. It's becoming more and more popular. And, you know, one person said, I've seen a UFO, and the other person said, I've seen a drone. So if you're the government and you want to keep your, you know, stuff secret, but eventually you know it's going to get out because the things you're having it do
yeah,
are going to be are becoming more and more likely to be seen, what do? Let's make it okay. Like if you seen that go flying by in the sky and you're like, that's a drone, are you less worried that it's a drone or more worried that it's a UFO? Which one makes you feel better? To me, it's a drone. I'm like, oh, that's a drone.
For me, it's a UFO.
That's something I'm familiar with, kind of. I know what drones do. I'm hoping it's fine. You know, maybe it's Amazon flying pizzas around or whatever, right?
See,
that's more acceptable. If it's like, that's an alien death drone. It has laser beams and directed energy weapons and could do sonic weapons and basically cut the tails off of cows and lips and stuff and do all that crazy stuff. I'd be more freaked out by it.
It could be a government drone trying to figure out if you're growing marijuana or collecting personal
exactly.
data.
It could be these drones. Maybe these drones have been like served their purpose in the government and now they're being utilized by other departments in the government like FBI and CIA to cruise around and spy on people.
Or inform you of your extended car warranty.
Possibly.
You know?
Yeah. Let's not make this less serious than what it really is.
No, I mean, those are like the legit concerns.
I mean, think about how you could make that drone invisible. Let's cover the bottom with mirrors.
Yeah.
As long as the sun doesn't hit it just right, it's just going to appear to be nothing.
Hey, it's not
or just like in the Avengers movie that I act like I've never seen, that I've seen 15 times with Spider-Man in it. Oh, actually, it's a Spider-Man movie. How does Tony Stark's stupid plane go flying by and fly through a populated area, moving all the crap out of Stark Towers to somewhere else? A little tiny little camera or two on the bottom of this big-ass plane, right? And then the whole bottom of the plane was an LED screen, and it just projected what it's seen.
Yeah.
Which is funny because the cameras are pointing down. Anyway, so if you took a camera and did a sort of a television feed of the sky, and the bottom of your aircraft was an actual LCD, like a television screen, and you just basically showed the sky on the bottom, you wouldn't be able to see it hardly, or at least it would go without notice. You know, nobody's paying attention anyway.
There was another UFO sighting the day before my birthday this year.
Yeah,
over near Hendersonville, and then to DuPont State Creek Recreation Forest and DuPont Road.
There you go.
Yeah. The same pattern, apparently, and that's according to Fate Magazine and Mysteries and Monsters.
Yes.
So I guess we need to keep an eye on that.
Yeah. I mean, well, we do, but what are you supposed to do when you see it? You're like, okay, cool. I've seen what could possibly be a transiting drone going from one place to the other.
Tell our listeners if they spot it, send it to us, you know.
Yeah, and then what do? We talk about the podcast because there's nothing we can do about it.
Pretty much.
Yeah, which is what everybody does.
We could track it.
With what?
Google Sheets.
Okay. Yeah. Let's analog it, right?
A spreadsheet.
Okay, and then what does that do? Seeing a silvery ball flying from A to B. That's it. Now what?
I really like that you're downplaying my Google
Sheets
business capabilities.
For those of you who don't know, Google Sheets is a garbage version of Excel.
No, it's an excellent version of Excel.
Well, it's because it doesn't cost you anything.
I can get it to you.
Okay, so anyway, John had some other stuff to talk about, and he did bring this up, and this was brought up last year, that this is missing dog season, the beginnings of it, because he notices that in the area he is, the missing dog signs go up.
We're having that pop up here, too.
Yeah.
Me and Pepper were on a walk a week and a half ago, and somebody drove up to our neighborhood and was sticking flyers on people's mailboxes and actually handed me one. I was like, hey, I saw the... I saw the post, and as soon as that person was handing out flyers, literally that evening, 2 more missing dog posts went up. So I'm like, great, 3 missing dogs in the span of a day.
Yeah, something's going on.
So.
One of the things he did bring up, and I thought was really interesting, NC game wardens came into a place, I don't want to give too many details, came into a place where he happened to be. Mm-hmm. Right, and they were looking for the most devastating big bore Creedmoor, basically looking for big giant bullets, the biggest ones they could get. These are game wardens.
Yeah.
What is a game warden going to shoot with the biggest bullet they can get? It doesn't take a super big giant bullet to take down an elk, and it doesn't take a big giant bullet to take down a bear. They were looking for bullets that could take down like a school bus, big buffalo.
Dinosaur.
And the person that was basically at where he was that sells bullets basically said, this bullet can take down a buffalo. Mm-hmm. And they're like, that's not going to work. As in, that's not big enough.
He should have asked, are you going into any caves?
Yeah. Hey, guys. Regular guy here going to ask you some mysterious questions. Think about how that would fly. No. Game wardens are jerks. Most of them, I mean, they're nice they're never nice on TV. We watch Game Warden show where they're like down in Texas or whatever.
It. I end up trying to mentally tune it out.
Okay, you were a part of it, so it's okay. You're allowed to be a part of something.
Because they're so mean.
Yeah, because they are straight up making revenue. I've rarely seen anybody get away with it. See, they're just jerks, man, and they have all sorts of powers that regular law enforcement doesn't have. They think you got an eagle feather in your house, they can kick the door down. Come on in. You don't need a warrant.
Even if you found it in the woods or
Doesn't
something?
matter.
That's horrible.
They're going to give you a ticket. You've watched the show. They're like that in real life. I mean, some of them are real nice, but at the end of the day, they're not nice.
Okay.
You can get a game warden to cruise around with you and say, hey, we need to get in that house. We think they got something illegal. And what do you think they got? Raccoon pelt. Let's go. Kick your door in. Seriously.
Jeez.
So anyway, why do these guys need these big giant bullets to go into the mountains around here? I mean, I kind of have a general understanding of what's in these woods.
Maybe to shoot down
Shoot what? A big giant bear?
a drone flying over Hendersonville.
Why would you know?
Okay.
If you're going to shoot something like a drone, you want to shoot something maybe that has like lots of little pellets in it or lots of like, lead weights or shots in like a scatter effect, because shooting a tiny object with a tiny bullet from a far distance is hard.
Okay.
So, and the best way to shoot them out of the sky is like with a net gun or use some kind of electronic jamming device that basically makes it lose sight of what it's trying to do.
So to tie in this request for this big bore like ammo, this large ammo with missing dog season.
Not tying it in with dog season.
Okay.
These are separate things. That's why I said that.
But I'm kind of going back around. Do you think they might correlate in some way?
Maybe. I think there's some weird stuff going in the woods where he definitely is. That's whether it's feral people or just basically dehomed, or what do we call? What are we calling homeless people now? Is it dehomed?
Houseless.
Okay, houseless people that may or may not have issues with things like sobriety or whatever.
When it's not by choice, it's houseless. If it's by choice, like van dwellers and van lifers, then it's home free.
That's the stupidest thing.
Don't.
It is. It's stupid.
Do not.
I don't want anybody to come up and go, "Oh, are you home free?" No, I'm not home free. I'm cruising around in a $65,000 van.
I know.
And you think I'm home free? I'm They don't go up to old people in RVs and go, "Are you home free?" They're like, "No." Are you traveling? The correct answer is, if you're a van dweller or traveling by van anywhere, you're traveling.
The people who come up with these designations are so far detached from any niche communities and lifestyles that these are the big fancy words they come up with.
All right. Have you ever seen Friends?
No, I don't.
Yes, you have. There's some clips from Friends that even the people that hate Friends, know. And one of them is when Ross makes his little hands and he goes, "Can you use your inside voice?" and does the hand thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know what I'm talking about, even though you haven't seen it, right? When people say stuff like, "Oh, are you homeless or are you houseless?" I think that they're making the same sort of gesture, right? Have you been dehomed? It's like
No, and dehomed has been determined to be insensitive.
It's all insensitive. If you can't spend your entire life trying to be sensitive to everybody, because you can't. It's impossible. You try to do the best you can. But if somehow or another somebody, you inadvertently break somebody, there's a million people out there. They may not know that I like or that I don't like being referred to as the most wonderful man in the universe.
Okay.
But if they say it, I'm not going to hold it against them.
Okay.
Because, it's all about intent. Are they trying to be nice to me? I'm good. Right?
Okay.
Inside voice. Just tune it down a little bit. But why are they buying these big bullets? Why? What are they trying to shoot? I mean, there's bullets out there that you can shoot a tree down with. Mm-hmm. And these guys looking for stuff that could do that. What are they trying to shoot?
I don't know. As soon as you started talking about it before the podcast and I got on my little whole tangent about calibers and stuff like that, I started going, man. And I just pictured rangers and just, wildlife officials just walking into a cave and just shooting into like the giant darkness, and I don't know, some monster, some like subterranean lizard coming out. That's the picture I had in my head, Well,
when you just said that, the picture in my head was they'd probably be using a shotgun and they'd shoot it straight into the cave and be shocked when all those little pellets and rounds and buckshot comes right back at them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why?
Because that's what happens when you shoot into like a cave.
How big and how deep of a cave?
It doesn't matter. You're going to get some ricochet. It's going to come back to you.
So
there's ways to do that sort of thing. Imagine being on a ship.
Scatter stuff. I'd shoot one big bullet towards a general direction.
That's how big of a bullet you.
Well, I don't know, because I do not personally know how big this ammo is.
If you're shooting into a confined space, it'd be nice to be able to throw a bunch of pellets, like a whole bunch of tiny little bullets to cover the area. You have a higher likelihood of hitting something, like shotguns. Mm-hmm. They shoot lots of shot.
Yeah.
Right, and they create a bigger hole pattern.
But
It's still tiny. It's individual holes, but together they make a bigger hole.
But if I'm anticipating ricochet from cave walls, I'm not going to use it.
Well, that's just the thing. They probably wouldn't, be looking out for ricochet and that kind of thing. They'd be thinking that I can't see. It's easier to miss a one bullet than it is to shoot a whole bunch of bullets. Mm-hmm. Even to shoot one big bullet, you can still dodge one big bullet. Mm-hmm. So if you were standing there and I throw a big round red rubber ball like dodgeball at you, you can get out of that way. Mm-hmm. Even if I make it the size of a beach ball or bigger than that, you can still dodge out of the way. Let's say I take a handful of golf balls and whip them at you. I have 5-6 times more likelihood, even 8 times more likelihood of hitting you with one of those golf balls than a big giant red rubber ball that you can move out of the way. Mm-hmm. Anyway, we were taught in the military how to do that sort of thing. Shoot down the passageway of a ship without shooting yourself. Mm-hmm. Like shooting down to the deck because it's steel and it ricochets back up and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Angles. Like that.
Okay.
I don't think a lot of these guys are trained that way.
Which, I don't
know how long their little academy is.
Big bore ammo.
No, okay. So the entire point of it is, if you got somebody who's in the woods and knows what's in the woods, and they're looking for the biggest bullets they can find, there's a reason why they need the biggest bullets they can find. And it's even more of a reason if their department said, "Go out and get the biggest bullets you can find."
Yeah,
that would freak me out. If we were like parked at a trailhead and we're like getting ready to go hiking or whatever, and the ranger said, "We'll be right back. We got to go get the biggest bullets we could find." We get right back in the freaking car and drive away. And you'd be like, "Let's go see what's going on." No, we're not. What if it's a big giant mutant bear? What if it's a medicine bear?
Or a cocaine bear?
Cocaine bear eventually is going to blow his heart out running around doing stupid stuff. Medicine bear can take his little paws, rub them on his belly, and create biscuits and cornbread and all the stuff I'd like to eat.
Acorns?
I want cornbread. I don't want acorns. Acorns are sour. Cornbread muffins, like that. Peanuts.
I forgot to leave that story open and share it with some friends.
Yep, it's a good story.
Yeah.
So anyway, I do appreciate the comments and the suggestions that came in for that. And there was another one that showed up in our that we put in the podcast too. Showed up from a good buddy. Mm-hmm. But I'll tell you about that in just a second. But we do want to say if we can eventually bring you the story of this family in this local area, in the Old Fort Marion area, that possibly shot a wampus cat.
Yeah.
Or Black Panther. Either way, either one of those two, whichever way you want to go, wampus cat or Black Panther, those are cryptids.
Yeah. In North Carolina.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually shot one of the legs off of it.
Yeah.
So it was then it became an angry 3-legged wampus cat / creature / whatever. And so if we can get permission to play that interview, we will.
Yeah. It's
a pretty interesting story. And the funny thing about this Old Fort 150 project that you're doing that I get to work for cheeseburgers for, and when I help you, is that every once in a while, boy, one of them local lore stories slips out.
Yeah.
Unprompted. Mostly. And sometimes it's not even wanted. Like these people that obviously aren't from this area that bought a bed and breakfast at the Old Fort Inn and tried to make it into a bed and breakfast. And the dude's doing his little interview, and I guess it's his daughter or niece. I'm pretty sure it was his daughter, but I can't tell because the guy looked kind of old. He looked older than me. Like, this room is haunted. And he just looked straight at her like, "What are you doing? Don't say that." She's like, "It is." I'm like, is it? Yeah. And then, his wife was like, you guys could come check it out if you want. Like they don't want that out there. Like that's not a selling feature or, a feature for your bed and breakfast that you want. Like, hey, this room is haunted. You would probably get more people to come stay to try to do an investigation or at least check it out. But and honestly, that may not be what they're looking for, though.
Yeah, they are not looking for that.
Yeah.
But
she was like, "Yeah, if you guys really want to," I'm like, "I know, and I'm not."
We are helping a local community group in Old Fort, North Carolina, with the 150-year anniversary, and part of that is establishing an oral history archive. So part of my daytime job is speaking to residents who live in the area and having them share an oral history. One of the more recent ones that we hope to bring to you is that 3-legged creature, or cryptid, because it's a generational story, meaning the whole family has a story, and it was passed on from, between grandfather and father, and then the father and his siblings had that whole experience. So this lasted for pretty much the lifetime of that particular cryptid or folklore. And it's carried on now to her generation. She still has this story, and she's sharing it with her family because they still live on that land.
And it also ties into the fact that there was a newspaper article about another attack where, like, you know, a bunch of dogs and animals were killed.
Well, what's funny is you can look up around that general time period, maybe within about, there's like a 5-10 year difference, that there were reports of large predator attacks near like lumber yards and near factories, because back then, we have to think, some of these more rural communities, most people still didn't have vehicles, and we're talking into the 1960s, 1970s.
Let's not go crazy. And let's just say in the 50s and earlier, a lot of people didn't have their own individual cars.
That was one of the things they were talking about. Even in the 60s, a lot of people still didn't have vehicles. So some people naturally walked to work, or one of their family relatives had the car, so they just went to work on foot.
Well, a lot of like vehicles were for farming and stuff, and they were community. We don't want to say that they just didn't have the opportunity to have them. What do they call that?
Car free. I'm going to smack you with the show notes.
They were car free. Okay, guys, use your inside voice. Car free.
But yeah, I mean, there are some corresponding articles talking about large predator attacks from workers at various factories and places like that who are walking to work, and suddenly there was a cryptid encounter or a large animal encounter.
And what's the thing about that particular lady and her family? That particular lady's family was from an area that allegedly has Bigfoot sightings.
Yeah.
So, or large creature sightings. So I thought that was pretty interesting. So, yeah. So whether it's a wampus cat, black panther, whatever, it's still a 3-legged cryptid, and hopefully we'll be able to talk about it.
And I'm hoping, we get more really interesting oral archive stories. So, yeah.
Yeah. Speaking of oral archive stories,
yeah.
Dave sent us the idea of what's going on with great value Walmart type foods, because we talked about contains bioengineered food ingredients.
Yeah.
Right. So he sent this and started looking into it. And I started to get kind of freaked out, but I think there's an answer to it. So, according to this particular article that I found, so you could click on it and read it if you want, Daily Dot.
Yeah.
Right. Great value. You've got some explaining to do. And basically, the customer shows Walmart syrup may contain anchovies.
Yeah.
We have the same garbage syrup in our thing, and it says the same thing. And there's other food products that can contain stuff like pieces of tilapia.
I remember this.
And all those like food chunks and stuff. And people are like freaking out, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, whoa, man. And I don't want, and like may contain traces of milk, eggs, anchovies, wheat, and soy. And it's like, and that's in maple syrup.
Yeah.
And other stuff like their mashed potatoes and just general weird stuff. It's like, what, in other words, food products that you should not have fish in them are having chunks of fish and pieces and bits and stuff. And so my immediate thought was these manufacturing places that are making these food products just are not cleaning up. Okay. Like, hey, man, let's go ahead and run some sardines and some tilapia fish patty things for a while. Let's not wipe anything down. Now let's make syrup. And they're just using the same contaminated cooktops or what do you call it, like stainless steel preparation areas. But I don't think that's the case.
So I remember this because I was one of those people that bought the marshmallows. And I'm like, what do you mean this has tilapia?
Yeah.
And then a month later, and now this was a while, like years ago, when I went through a bagel phase and I was buying their...
Bagel?
No, not the
bagel phase?
Bagel phase, where I was having a bagel with breakfast.
Oh, okay.
And I was trying to just get creative with whatever I put on the bagel. And I swear that at one point they had a bagel spread that was... This is so gross. It was fruity, and it said the tilapia thing. And I just, as soon as I noticed that, I went ahead and let it spoil in the fridge and threw it away 2 months later because I'm bad at cleaning up the fridge.
You threw it on the ground.
I was just like, oh. But yeah. Yeah, I don't think it's that they're not cleaning up. I do think it's a like CYA, because that facility...
Yeah, it's like your allergen statement may contain peanuts and fish and whatever else.
I've also seen
shellfish.
Seen places where like it's a big giant manufacturing facility with multiple manufacturing plants within it, and they've had to put statements out there because the dude that makes peanut butter in the morning washes his hands, goes to lunch, and then starts his shift over at the breakfast cereal plant right next door.
Yeah.
So, yeah. That's what I hope it is.
Yeah, because it could be that 95% of the time, anchovies are the secret ingredient.
Oh, man.
Yeah, it's kind of gross.
Yeah.
So hopefully that's the case. Don't know for sure, but I just thought it was pretty funny. Get this thing from Dave, and it's like, did you know anchovies are in syrup? I'm like, huh. So I went and looked, and yes, it says. So hopefully it just may contain traces of anchovies in my syrup and not actually have a top secret ingredient of anchovies.
The tilapia one with the fruit spread for
Well,
me.
you can make it more exotic and call it tilapia.
No, I won't.
Okay. It's still garbage fish. Tilapia is a garbage fish.
Exactly. I don't want that in my marshmallows or my bagel breakfast spread.
So you'd rather have the beef gelatinous hoof for your Jell-O?
At least it's honest.
Well, hopefully that kind of stuff will be canceled because there's a lot of ingredients that are put in foods and a lot of food type stuff that you can't eat in Europe. Because Europeans are like, this is garbage and it's not good for you.
Okay.
So you got to give them that credit. Although a lot of it's just bland, like England, right? They don't do flavor in England, right? So, and I know this based for people that are in England right now going, what are you talking about? You know, it's true. The most spicy thing I seen when I was in England, and I spent 3 weeks there, was malt vinegar. It's like, can I get the blood of a tomato, please? Give me some ketchup. It really wasn't as spicy as it could be.
Yeah.
And it is a little bit of a difference because, I'm not slighting England. I mean, they got some wonderfully bland food, but I mean, come on.
I can't stand bland food. Oh my god. It's
like, oh man. And that's why you don't see very many British people on that First We Feast Hot Wings or Hot Ones show.
Okay.
It's probably a whole bunch. I don't know. That's just me, broadly speaking. Only remembering.
Did you watch it last night and there was a British person on there?
Don't be telling people my business.
Okay.
Yeah, but that show's been on for like 12 seasons and they've had like 3 British people that I can remember. Idris Algebra. Idris, how's that guy's name? Is it Idris?
Idris?
Algebra.
Oh my god.
Algebra. I don't know how to say his name. So he is Idris Algebra. No offense.
No, I can't even say it because you messed me
up.
up.
I don't think Benedict Cumberbatch has been on there. I don't know. It doesn't matter. We're moving on. It is Algebra,
No,
isn't
it's
it?
not.
Is it Eldra?
No.
What is it? What?
Elba.
What?
Elba.
I don't understand what you're saying. Quit trying to say it like it's spelled and not like you're trying to make it sound British.
Elba.
That is not it.
ELBA.
Elba?
Elba.
No, it's not. Stop it. You're the worst.
No, I'm not.
Yes, you are. Roll your R's. Go ahead.
No.
I'm not even going to attempt because I know I can't. So anyway,
Can't even.
why don't you tell everybody about your stupid plant that you found?
Oh, really?
Your ghost plant, corpse plant,
I don't know.
Indian pipe. Go ahead. There, let me pronounce it for you. According to the USDA/US Forest Service website, it's Monotropa uniflora. So it's called ghost plant / Indian pipe. Why don't you go ahead and try to pronunciate that, Naomi? Go ahead, throw it out there. You'd be like, oh, that's blah, 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 blah. Like, no. So she has been cruising around the property there and finding some amazing Appalachian-style stuff to forage because it's pretty neat to eat weird stuff off the land. And she came across this Monotropa uniflora, which is like the ghost plant, an Indian pipe. It's crazy, right? Okay. You okay? She's just laughing at me. All right. So I would say let's go to a commercial, but since our podcast is sponsored by patrons, and they don't give us commercials, and not a lot we can do. But no, it's a really cool looking plant. You want to tell everybody about it? How about we just talk about it? Here we go.
Are you looking to start a podcast? Then see this episode's show notes for our unique promo code to get up to 2 months of free podcasting service with Libsyn when you sign up for a new account. Get your show on Apple and Spotify. Get helpful audience building stats and all the support you need to sound your best. They can even do video. Bring your podcast to life and have your voice heard here, there, and everywhere with Libsyn. Again, see our show notes for our unique Libsyn promo code and get podcasting.
And we're back. Okay, so tell everybody about this ghost pipe plant thing that you found.
Ghost pipe? Let me.
Ghost plant is another name for Indian pipe.
I know. I prefer ghost pipe because I think I prefer calling it ghost pipe. I really do.
All right, we'll call it what you want. It's monoflora uniflora.
Stop! I'm going to start cracking up again.
But no, that's what it's called. Okay, so anyway, it has this transparent white sort of appearance. It's an all white plant because it doesn't ingest chlorophyll.
It doesn't develop chlorophyll,
which means it can't ingest chlorophyll.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So, anyways, when you first see it, a lot of people mistake it as a mushroom, and it's not a mushroom. Monotropa uniflora is actually a true plant. Its cousin is the blueberry, or of all things.
That's weird.
Yeah. But because it is uniflora, that designation, that means not developing the traditional characteristics.
Well, it also just means one flower.
No, the monotropa part, well, yeah, so that's where it gets weird. But the fact it only has one flower means it's the ghost pipe. If it has multiple flowers, but is still pale, it's actually another subset, which we also have here. It's just they don't traditionally develop like other plants, and they have a ghostly appearance. You'd think something that's stark white when it comes out of the ground and is a plant would stick out like a sore thumb, but they don't. They're notoriously hard to find, and they're rare.
Yeah.
They're partially rare because, as I started to look up more and more about these things, I found out there was a big rush on, like, indigenous and folkloric, like, home remedies, and in 2016... way too many people in a lot of the southern states picked this thing almost close to get it on like an extinction list.
Yeah.
So you need to be careful with this plant. It is very delicate. It is as delicate as it looks. You can cultivate small portions of it. Do not grab the whole plant and pull it out of the ground. And the reason for that is not just because it won't grow back. It's because what makes this plant unique is that it develops off the mycelium network underneath in the ground. Now, the mycelium network is a very broad description for the mushroom and fungi environment that grows in your forest. There are multiple mycelium networks in a small woods, and that mycelium network might be one that helps grow bolete mushrooms. It might be one that helps the morel mushrooms grow, you know? So you have all these different fungal networks that grow, and when they grow to the right conditions, that helps ghost pipe actually grow.
Yeah.
So they have to meet all these special conditions before you'll even see this plant, yet we had people basically over-harvesting it.
Yeah.
So now,
well, not us.
Yeah. That, like I say, it was like 2014, 2016. There was a big rush on this.
Yeah.
And you had people who were looking at older texts and then writing up quick recipes or improvising as they went to make tinctures and find other methods to use this really interesting plant. This really interesting plant has some pain-killing, pain-relieving, and emotional like difficulties treatments. So
yeah.
like, yeah.
So to me, it's real medicine.
It is.
And you know, when you see like, you know, the medicine man or whatever goes out and gets some stuff.
Yeah. And
or the medicine woman.
It's complementary to other herbal and, you know, non-manufactured medicines and medicinal treatments. So you can use this in conjunction with like mullein to help with breathing troubles and all this other stuff. It's a very good complementary drug.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy because if you think about it these days, if you're to take a kid these days and say, hey, chew on this leaf, it has the same medicinal effects as chewing on an aspirin, they'd think you're crazy.
Yeah.
Because to them, medicine is made by man.
Yeah.
But to most native cultures and indigenous cultures and even our own ancestors, pioneering and everything else, medicine was from the land.
Yeah.
And so what a lot of pharmaceutical companies do is they're just recreating what was available in the earth and on the land and making it chemically.
Yeah.
And creating it, and then basically saying, oh, don't eat that. That'll kill you. Even though it's the same thing chemically that you made in a plant, that are charging me $5 for a Tylenol when I can go chew on some bark somewhere and have the same effect.
Yeah.
So when you look back to like, when you see movies or whatever, and you see somebody get hurt and, you know, dude's out there rubbing dirt on it and making this weird thing in a, you know, you're like, whatever. He's, you know, that's not penicillin. He's going to die for sure.
What do they call
it? You know what I mean? It's like a poultice or something.
Oh, yeah. Like, you know, we know what a pharmacist is, but there used to be like in the 1800s, they'd actually call them druggists or something along those lines, you know? And the people who compounded different natural remedies together to make things. Like you were talking about aspirin. Aspirin's origins started with willow bark from the willow tree.
Yeah, you could still do it from willow bark. You can still eat dandelions and everything else, too.
Yeah, to help with digestion and all this other stuff.
Yeah, there's pine needles and all sorts of stuff like that. I mean, they still do compounding now, but they just mix.
Yeah, compoundist, that's what it was.
Yeah, they mix, like, nowadays, chemical ingredients to achieve the same sort of thing. So, you know, back in the olden days where they would take everything and sort of, you know, put it in a mortar and pestle and smash it all together and do the right ratios to give you
something that was more ghost plant and maybe a little bit of
let me put a dash of echinacea, let me put a dash of elderberry, let me put, you know, a little bit of ghost pipe in there and all that and mix it all together. Here, drink this garbage tasting tea and it'll cure you. It's the same sort of thing, except now they just do it chemically and we take a pill.
Yeah. Whereas this is a nice...
I mean, can you imagine, though? I mean, that stuff passed down by hand from witch doctor to medicine man to shaman. Yeah. You better have it right.
True.
Because, you know, with the ghost pipe, if you do it right, you're going to have these wonderful results. If you do it wrong, it can be very bad for you.
And that was what I was going to get to. I found another website. They had tons of very useful information, and they used their sources. But they said in one of their preparations of this plant, one of their family members did not react well to the tincture that they made. So you do have to be very careful and follow, you know, very guided step-by-step stuff.
I'm pretty sure being able to find anywhere in publication the correct ratios and that sort of thing is gone.
Yeah. Well, and that's where, you know, as much as I love technology, I say, don't just watch a TikTok video and run out there and go start eating stuff out of the yard, you know, because this does take some research. And right now, this is my current research obsession. I love the history around this. I mean, yes, one of the regional or American names for this was Indian pipe. I like to call it ghost pipe, or I'll call it the Monotropa uniflora. But the folklore behind it is really interesting because... what happened was there's a story that these Indian chiefs or these chiefs of these different tribes,
native chiefs,
they were having a lot of problems within all of their tribes, and they all sat together and tried to, I'm paraphrasing the story because I don't have the source in front of me right now, but they sat together for over a week deliberating the problems and couldn't figure the problems out. And they just sat around talking in circles about the problems. Well, one of the chiefs like, we're getting nowhere with this. Let's go smoke the peace pipe together to come up with a solution. And then they ended up still talking about all their problems and still talking about it, but not making any resolution. And from the lack of solution, that's where the ghost pipe sprung from the earth, from the ashes of the pipe that they should not have smoked until peace was made. So, yeah.
Very nice. I think it's a pretty cool looking flower, and so far my contribution to your ghost pipe experience has been trying to find a foraging bag that looks super cool.
Yeah. I mean,
which I'm on a canvas bag kick again. I have a YouTube channel where I've waxed canvas and done all that sort of old pioneering stuff. I fall in and out of it.
yeah.
You know, for me, the idea of carrying around a cool, not a haversack, because haversacks are cool, but they're just a little too plain to do the, what is that stuff called now? Where you got knuckleheads going out in the woods and doing that with their little haversacks and
Foraging?
no, they're not necessarily foraging. They're like surviving off the land and doing all that.
Oh.
It's, oh, it's going to bug me. So let me see. Haversack. It's wild man stuff. Why did it go right out of my head? Now I got to figure it out because I'm going to feel like a buffoon. It's hold on. We had shows on it that came on TV for a while where it's like, let's go out in the woods and we're going to survive and take our little sack and stuff it full of things to let us live and bushcraft.
Yeah, bushcrafters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I got to wear a knife around my neck so I won't lose it and all this crazy stuff. And it used to be like, had to be all super tactical, right? We have all this tactical stuff. Now it's like, well, if I'm going to go walk around the woods, let me utilize bushcraft skills where I can take this tool and poke a hole in a log and then, you know, drill another hole and create a fire, a rocket furnace type thing and all this. And, you know,
You kind of skipped a couple of trends because it went from practical to tactical to technical to ultralight, and now we're back to bushcraft.
yeah. Well, I think ultralight hiking is before all that.
Yeah, it is because it kind of came in the face of tactical.
Well, no, it sort of came in the face of mountaineering. Like climbing the peaks where things were like, well, I can't have that stove. This stove is 22 grams. That stove is 20 grams. Every gram I can save, kind of a thing.
My base weight will affect me.
Yeah, and
walking
I think
across this valley.
yeah, it's you know, and a lot of it for us doesn't impact us at all.
Yeah.
In the grand scheme of things,
Yeah.
I mean, it's not like, okay, are you going to the moon? Every gram counts. Are you hiking Kilimanjaro or something like that? Every gram counts.
Or even the white.
Are you walking from the parking lot to go see a waterfall? I'm pretty sure you can handle a couple grams extra, right?
Yeah, even the Whites Mountains up in the Northeast. I mean, those, I do think your base weight, depending on the time of year, really matters. But if you're just like, I'm going to my car to an area with less tourists to do a YouTube video, not really.
Well, you know, and a lot of that is the gear. And people were like, oh, well, you know, a haversack used to just be basically just a tote bag kind of looking deal, or a bread sack with a long strap on it, right? Typically canvas because you can wash it. A lot of them were made out of like bread bags and flour bags and stuff like that. So you buy a flour bag, or you'd buy flour and then you would turn it into a bag to go out and stuff mushrooms in it and whatever else, right?
Yeah.
Well, now if you want to try to find if you put the word haversack on something, you're charging $80. Yeah, and people are buying it. If you know, it's like,
which reminds me, like, okay, so there's a mushroom foraging bag that I really, really want, and it's actually supposed to be for apples.
it's also $79.
It's $89 for an apple picking bag.
Well, I've been watching it, and the problem that you're going to have with that apple picking bag that you think is so cool, it is a giant bag,
and it's heavy.
Yeah.
And getting back to ghost pipe and not marshmallows with tilapia, mushrooms.
Yes.
They need to be carefully foraged. So even if I have the coolest bag on Amazon right now, you still have to be very careful with a lot of
Yeah,
these.
they're soft. They're delicate.
They are so, like...
That's why a lot of these bags are made out of linen.
Yeah.
And have like a muslin interior and breathable and everything else.
These ghost pipe, even touching them the wrong way, because I cut 2 from a group, because there was a cluster of about 5 or 6, and I cut 2. Well, when I cut a second one, my scissors bumped one that was closer in the cluster. And I just went back yesterday, and it's got a big old blue bruise down its side.
Yep.
From my scissors touching it. Not
Yeah.
even the sharp side, the soft side.
Yep.
So you have to be careful. And the same thing can happen with certain types of mushrooms and fungi. So you definitely have to even if you're not doing L&T practices, leave no trace, you have to be mindful when you harvest this particular plant, which is another reason I'm so fascinated with it.
Yep, so there you go.
The fact that you can try to intervene in the forest and the forest can say, bad,
Well, yeah, you're never going to win with Mother Nature and all that sort of thing. You just got to be a good steward of the land. And speaking of which, we're going to wrap this podcast up because I think we've been talking too long.
Okay.
So, yeah. Anyway, there you go. You've been listening to the CreepGeeks Podcast. We do appreciate you taking the time. Listen, Season 7, Episode 279, which was Asheville UFO Drone, Black Panther, Ghost Plant, and Anchovie Syrup. So if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, you should get a hold of us. Let us know.
Yep. Thank you guys for tuning in. And find us on social media. And to our Patreon patrons, make sure you update your addresses with us. I have plans to send things out over the next few days. Okay?
Yes. Very nice. All right. Well, anyway, see you later. Take it easy. Bye, Sickle.
Bye.